We're here with our special guest, Kane. We're talking about competition the last few days. We're discussing sort of that as it
Yeah.
bluntly interrupted us.
So yeah, like I was saying, I've got so it's the NABBA Worlds coming up.
Yeah.
So obviously, and by the way, I wanted to say because I was talking about NABBA before,
Mm.
it's the first time I competed in NABBA,
Yeah.
and literally I'd won prize money once before,
Yeah, that's
but
right.
I won 1,500. I won $1,500
Yeah,
for winning
nice.
the show, and I'm
Yeah.
like, God damn, this never happens. So NABBA are doing a good job of like trying to get stuff back to the athletes
Mm.
because you don't really win anything from competing as an
No,
amateur. You never do.
no.
And they looked after the athletes really well. We got free stage pictures and everything. Like it all came with it, and I
Usually you
was
got to
very happy
pay
with it.
pay for that with other federations and that, don't you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And you don't know if they're going to be great pictures or not. so so like yeah, we got a few days. A week left until then, but I'm in the classic bodybuilding and the open bodybuilding.
Nice.
And I'm looking forward to it. It is a big competition. It is
It's
a very
exciting.
big competition.
It's a big
Yeah,
prize pool too.
I don't even know what the prize pool is. I don't even know.
I know
I
overall, I think it's like close to 50 unless they announce something different, but that's split for the main show. So I think the other shows, I think they'll be thing. But by saying that, if everything plays the same way, there's a chance for that pro card too, isn't it? Or did they give you the pro card now already? Did you already get the pro card?
No, I didn't. I didn't get a pro card. I don't know how that works because some people got a pro card on the day, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
that's why I was
So some
confused too, because
some girls got
I
some.
watched that. Yeah, I watched that. I was
Yeah, I
confused
don't know.
too.
I don't know how they determine that. But I look to
Yeah.
me, I'll be honest, being a pro is great, but I almost see it as like if you turn pro at
Mm,
my age, 39, I've been competing 20 years.
mm,
I'm a realist, right? If I turn pro, my career's almost done.
mm.
Like I'm
That's
not saying it's done,
that's your
but
prime time though. That's your best muscle maturity that time.
yeah,
That the
yeah, no,
next 5 years in between it depends on you just got to hold them wheels and you're golden. That's the only
yeah,
thing that will shrink. Yeah.
yeah, I know, but like it's just I don't know, like look in the IFBB, I've come second to pro qualifiers to people that won their pro cards like four times. So a lot of the classic
That
guys that I've
that
competed
would be
against, they're
mentally
pro.
hard a little bit because then you're like,
Right,
is
it's
this
horrible.
like that close like each
It's
time?
horrible. It's hard. It's
Yeah.
horrible. But
It'd give you
like
fuel and fire though too, would it? Good to give you something
it
to
does
achieve
both.
too,
It does both. Some people will cower away and be like, oh, I just think, you know what? Hey, if it's going to happen, it's going to
It's
happen.
happened. Yeah,
If it
that's
doesn't,
it.
if it doesn't happen, you just keep competing because you love it, bro.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
like, I've had a great sort of career, and it's nowhere near done.
Mm,
I'm not sure I'll be doing masters or hey. I always said I want to just do masters once to say I've done it and won it,
mm,
right? But that's when I'm 40, so that's
mm.
a while next year. Next year,
I'm
but
already there. I'm already there. I'm 41.
well,
Yeah.
there you go. But like it's been a good experience so far this season. So we're traveling up. Literally, I'm flying up to Sydney because the Worlds are in Sydney this year, which
Yeah.
is like amazing, amazing. I'm not that person that's going to fly. Nah, like to compete. No, I'm not going to spend thousands of dollars. Even though accommodation would be free in the UK because I've got all
Mm,
my family there,
yeah.
but nah, not my thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's going to
You're not
be
going to do
me
it
and my
overseas to do it, as long as it's in
nah,
Australia.
me,
Do you
yeah.
find that, sorry if you're already talking about flying and you're about to fly, do you have trouble with holding water when you do the flights or you don't know yet? Yeah, you fine?
I flew up to Queensland.
Oh,
The
good.
last show I did was yeah, there was no Vic show, so they gave me the invite up to Queensland to just go straight into the Southern Hemispheres.
Oh,
Because
nice.
normally
Yeah.
you've got to do
Qualifier.
like a,
Yeah.
yeah, but they said, no, you'll be right, just go straight up and you can compete. So I was lucky in that regard, but
Yeah, no.
even when I flew up, it's only like 2 hours or an hour.
Mm.
And the way I structure my peak as well, remember, that day when I fly, there's no carbs.
You're not eating anyway. Worst
No,
case scenario, you could just wear a set of tights and it'll keep it out anyway. Yeah.
I just wear like I rug up, right? Keep warm
Mm.
because I find if I get cold, I'm more likely to hold water. That's just might be what I've
Mhm.
seen for myself. So I rug up and I just punch water down because I'm not eating much food that day, so I'm just trying to get rid of it all.
Mm.
And I'm normally pretty cool. So I'm flying up on Saturday. This is maybe not the best idea, but I'm flying up Saturday.
Mm.
I think at 11. I get there at 1 or 2. I've got I'm going straight from the airport
Mm.
to the tan, right? Straight from the tan,
Yeah.
straight from the tan to my hotel, competing the next day. So I'm probably gonna like
You're going to be time crunched, and traffic's terrible there. Terrible.
I know
I'm not
but
far from there. I'm not really far from Sydney.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm sort of lucky that we've got a place that's pretty close. But and also saying that, after the show, I'm coming home straight away. I've got straight in a plane. I'm not staying there.
Yeah.
So, like, because look, I've got two girls and they love watching me compete. I love it. They scream out, "Dad!" They love it. You know, they've been up on stage with me, held up my pro card. One of them, it was awesome. But it's expensive. You know,
Yeah, that's the thing. When I was looking at it, I'm like, damn, I've got to pay, a night there, first night, now a second night because the show doesn't finish till this time. So then I'm
yeah.
going to have to spend 2 nights and then fly back. So then costs just keep racking up, if you get what I mean.
And
Yeah.
then you put kids into it, which is okay. You got
Yeah.
food, you got all this
Yeah.
stuff. But
Then
so me
you're-
and my wife would, I'm gonna compete, and then we're gonna fly home that night. So
Yeah.
it could be a bit. It's not ideal, but I just want to be home.
Yeah.
I want to be home. man.
I'm the same. I'm a homebody. I don't like going anywhere. Everyone gets shocked at me. They're like, I think you might have a similar mindset. It's like you get a little bag of coins, and each interaction takes one of them little coins away from you. If you get what I mean.
It's true.
Yeah.
And do you know what though? As bodybuilders, and even let's just say athletes, we like structure.
Yeah.
Right. We do not like to be out of like our normal comfort zone. So even me staying in Sydney, I'm like, there's got to be a kitchen. There's got to be this.
Yeah, and you look at where's the gym, where's this, where's that, depending on how long you were there. I need to know this is, and exactly, and how long is it going to take me to travel from here to there? Have I got to get a hire car? Have I got to you go through your list? How far?
We went to all that.
Where is check-in? How many hours is it going to take me to get the check-in? And then you're like,
where's Coles or Woolies near I'm staying? I need to find out.
I went food, or I'm just going to take the food with me. Or
I pack all my food. I don't risk it.
Yeah.
I will take all my food because I don't eat on the show days, so that's easy. But like all my other food, all the other food is like I just pre-pack it, and like certain things I do with my food, I can't do it in a hotel. So there's little things that I like to do with food in like peak week that I don't normally do, just to aid digestion and stuff like that. So I'll go to all minced foods, like minced chicken breast, and fish. Just for digestion purposes.
Oh, so you got to chew it as much, and you're not anything chunky. It's just all,
Like I said, for me, stomach control is huge and digestion. So if it's already pre-ground, it's partly digested. So it's easy to eat. So if I use fish, that's the easiest for me to digest, right? So if I've got to eat a lot of carbohydrates and there's not much protein there, as in you've got to chew down, it's going to digest better.
Do you know what I noticed that does that a lot? Because I just stumbled on it. I didn't mean to stumble on it, but I stumbled on it. Because sometimes, like, I find that if I just meal prep all my meals and just do it for the fly, I got to think about it. You know what I mean? It always tastes better fresh. It always tastes better fresh. You cook it every day. Sometimes you're just overdoing it. So what I do is I've been jamming it in the slow cooker, like on my fortnight's worth of chicken, right? But what I found is I let it soak longer than it should, and it made all the chicken do that exactly without having to break. Yeah, and it's just like it's like tuna or something.
Disintegrates.
Yeah. There's heaps of water in it. It's never dry. That's the bonus. No. But sometimes I had to get used to the wateriness of it. I was like, oh, I got used to it.
In the off season, I actually steam my chicken. I know it sounds yuck, but the reason being is it's soft.
Yeah,
it's
I've done
soft.
It too. Yeah.
So when you reheat, man, like when you eat a lot of food, people think, you just want it to go down and get it in and out of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're trying to do everything that you can to make it as easy as possible to get
and not sit there like this.
Like
rubbery.
Chowing down in your jaw. Like everyone.
And it's half burn a little bit your chicken breast, and you're like, rubber.
Yuck.
Rubber.
Yeah. So it'll be a good experience. But you know what? And this is it's a bit deeper. But when as a competitor and before kids, it wasn't really a huge issue. But I find when you have kids and you're a competitor, I just feel like I'm not the best dad I can be, And I'm not saying I'm bad. I'm not saying I'm a dickhead to my kids or anything like that. But
it's the time you don't spend with them because you're doing other stuff, and you feel like you're
You're
slightly
wrecked.
missing out. You know, I understand. I have the
Yeah.
same feelings like when I do, and
So
it's technically very selfish what we do, if you know what I mean. But you know,
so selfish.
that's the good thing of having a good understanding partner, as you were saying in the past. You know that they understand that and they pick up the slack during that time, and
Well, they
you know,
pick up
and
all the slack, all
yeah,
the slack.
it's
And then you just want to, after the show, I just want to be dad again, you know?
yeah,
And look, it doesn't mean I go off plan and be an idiot, but you just get enough food in you where you can not be like, all right, we want to go to the park. Like, oh God, all right. You know what I mean? You
yeah,
just, oh, let's go, you
yeah,
know? So that's the hard part I found about being an athlete and having kids. It can be tough, but one thing I do say is if you got kids and they are athletic themselves, like my daughter,
mm,
it's showing them that you're doing something that's really challenging, right?
yeah,
And for them to see that you're being challenged, it's very good for them, you know,
yeah,
in their sport. Because nothing comes easy.
yeah.
Nothing comes easy. And if I could be that role model to them, say, listen, your dad did that.
Yeah.
Look, maybe he didn't win, but he tried his hardest to
That's
do
it.
everything he
Even
could,
if
you
they
know?
don't see it now, leading by example that comes down to, you know,
Mm,
and it's the best probably the lesson you can give them. You know, I mean, what I
exactly.
personally think, because, you know, it's a journey of discipline then, you know what I mean? And it ingrains it, even if they don't do it or they play their games or do whatever, at one stage when they're interested, they'll be like, and, you know, and it'd be in that back of their mind there as they get older, you know. So yeah,
Yeah, I just,
very, very good
I,
positive outlook. Yeah.
I just hope my daughter doesn't do bodybuilding. My daughter.
I've got two sons, so you know.
Oh, man, your stuff, mate, your stuff.
But I don't push them one way or the other. So you know, and I won't. If they want to do that, I will guide them. You know, but if they
Yeah,
don't want to, that's fine.
it's
Do what you
cool.
want to do, mate. You know what I mean?
I just feel like even though I say I don't want them to do it, you've got like we got pictures up. Not we don't have a lot of around the house, but there's pictures of me and my wife competing. Like
They'll
there's
see
a
it.
whole cabinet of trophies. I'm like, it's indefinite. She's probably going to do it, man. You know what I mean? But like both of them, and they do. She knows all. They know all the poses and all that.
Yeah, because they watch you
But
while you're practicing all the time. You know, they do take a
yeah,
notice. You know,
yeah, man.
yeah,
So
yeah,
and so you know, it's challenging with kids, but it's also can be rewarding if you make it that. If you're that idiot that like just shuts down your family and shuts them out, yeah, that's not good. But if you try and show them the right way and what you're doing is can be positive, it's always going to be beneficial for them as growing up into young girls, you know, or young boys, whoever they are.
yeah,
You know, so
100%.
I found it very rewarding, but it's challenging, very
Yeah.
challenging. Yeah.
So with the last, as you were saying about the water, have you got your water structured because you've got a structure that you're going to use, or you're not going
Yeah,
to
man,
bother? So
I
what are you
do.
going to do?
I'm like I'm super anal with data. So like I have all my potassium weighed out,
Oh
my
wow,
sodium weighed out, all the water weight. Like,
you
the
got
thing is,
times you got so you just got set so you don't actually got times where you cut them out, or you do, or you yeah
it depends. It
okay
depends of what I'm doing, so how I'm looking. So my water will stay high. Well, I look for the peak, 5 liters every day.
okay
Right, 5 liters. That's how I do a liter in the morning and in between every meal, like right in the middle, because you don't want to have too much water with your meals to slow digestion.
yep
So I'll do it right in the middle. Then I have like with each meal, some in peak week, I'll do like digestive enzymes, some betaine sometimes if I'm having high protein meals like the day before, just to help break down things. Man, I do some
it's a
things on
lot
the
in
show
there
day.
yeah
Yeah, like you have to. I find if I have all the data there and I copy it, you're not guessing, you know? You're not guessing. And if you have it all there and you've trialed it and it's worked, it's not always going to be the same, but it's not going to be hugely far off, you know? And if you've got a good eye for your physique and you can see, and you've got good people around you who will tell you you're looking good or you're looking a bit, you know, then you can make alterations. But 5 liters of water, I normally do about all up, what do I want? 10 grams of potassium, 10,000 milligrams of potassium. I do 6,000 milligrams of sodium per day. And that will change probably the last day. I pull that down a touch. Depends whether I'm using any pharmaceuticals to take water off or if I'm just using something like Expel, which works really well.
mm,
And then apart from that, I don't really do anything that crazy. I find that if you're in shape, you're in shape.
yeah you haven't
Don't
got to
do
change
crazy stuff.
much yeah
No.
that's what
And,
we're
and,
saying before
and a lot of people will try and do some crazy stuff to get 5% better and end up 20% worse. you know. And then they will say, "Oh man, I look great 1 week out." I'm like, well, why did you change all the crazy stuff you did? You know, keep it the same, mate. Don't be going try and change it up everything else
Yeah,
just because you want to try and get 1% better.
that's like, that's why, like, if I was doing the logic, because like I said, you've done obviously more shows than that. So,
Yeah,
I would just attempt to, if I was doing it, I'd just leave my sodium the same. You know what I mean? Maybe
yeah,
drop it that morning, then add it back in when I
mm,
drop water.
yeah. See, and that's the thing.
Simple.
Like I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah, it's not rocket science. And the thing is,
Yeah.
though, I've had some people where you actually have to manipulate quite a bit
Oh,
because
really?
if you're a water buffalo,
Hmm.
um, and the water literally sticks to you. Think of some of these pros that you see, man. Like you see them like a week out. You're like, what the hell?
I
Then you see them.
personally think, this is one thing. I personally think a lot of people overrate the sugar-free shit leading into it. All that should be dropped the 2 weeks out. So what I think it is, it's the extra sodium from like the Coke Zeros or the sugar-free drinks or the other. So that has a part of holding more water too, or the extra sugar-free shit. If you understand what I'm talking about, that last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't normally drop it
You don't?
personally.
No?
Yeah, the only time I stopped doing it, I stopped doing like sugar-free drinks and sweeteners and stuff. Is
Hmm.
probably 3 days out. 3 days out.
Oh, and does
You
that
know.
usually tighten you up enough? You don't need longer?
Do you know what? I don't reckon it does anything to me, but for peace of mind, I'm like, it's working. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
because you
yeah,
will. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So
do you know you got
no,
the
that's what I meant by 2 weeks. Those slowly come down. Wouldn't be this fully out, so you get used to it. Yeah.
no, I just had today I just had a bloody monster just before this afternoon. But like,
Yeah.
I'm not.
You still got
sensitive
8. You still 8 days. If you only do it at 3 days, you're good for a bit. Yeah.
But my 5 liters of water has started 2 weeks out. The sodium and the potassium, all that's regulated for 2 weeks out.
And this because
And
you
then,
do. Sorry to interrupt. Because I'm just trying to break it down so I got a better understand just where my brain works. So because you're doing that time perfectly, is this because it's going to make your kidneys work more and flush more water out when you reduce the water, or you keep the water the same then that last period of time for that last day? So then you're super technically loading the water, compensating with the water to pull it down, or is it? Yeah, that's all. Just
no,
stuck for the logic
I
for it.
just
Yeah.
I just keep it consistent. I just think everything.
Okay.
If I'm looking good a week out and I'm on 5 liters of water
Yeah.
and that much sodium, that much potassium, don't change it.
Okay.
That's sort of my logic. I'm not huge. Look, I've done huge manipulations, man. I've done silly stuff, and I didn't find I got the result I wanted. How I got the result I wanted is just get fat free. If you get fat free, you have more window for error.
Yeah.
Honestly, like when you're actually fat free, you're not holding water, really, unless you're on a lot of maybe water holding drugs. That could be the case, which you shouldn't really be at the end of a prep. But
They should be dropped anyway. Yeah.
yeah, you should look. Mind you,
Or reduced.
If somebody is very slight, so they get very wiry and very stringy, sometimes keeping something in to keep them full can help them. But if you're someone who's been big and been heavy for a long time, and you're likely to hold water, you don't want to have that variable in there.
Yeah.
You want to pull it out and make sure maybe your test is not that high. You want to make sure you're on more DHT-based drugs. You want to be, you don't want to be running Anadrol to keep the fullness, because
I've heard of that nonsense too. A lot of people just do that, but apparently some people agrees with them a few days before. I heard that too.
I've done it. I've done Superdrol into a show, which is great.
Yeah.
But I don't do it anymore because if there's a limit, like you'll find that when you do stuff like that, you get a good response initially, great response, goes to shit. And then when it goes to shit, you're struggling to try
one extreme or the other. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't do that. I just keep to the drier, the standard sort of protocol.
Less is best in my head. Less is best.
Yeah, it is, man. It is, and sometimes trying to get 1%, you go backwards, man. Like you go backwards. So it's not worth it. You put all that work in, just keep it the same, man. Keep it the same. But then if you don't win, you're like, maybe I should have done that.
Yes, the
You
second
know?
voice gets in there. Then yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
couldn't. Yeah, that becomes difficult. You would do that too if you're like, oh, I shouldn't have ate that extra meal. Well, then if you should have stuck to the whole time, then you wouldn't have that trouble.
Exactly.
The
Yeah,
same.
exactly.
You'll have the same conversation with yourself then too if you did that ever once.
And you know what? It doesn't matter what happens. You'll always be like, what if? What if? What if?
Mm.
I don't think there's going to be a time when you'll be like, this is the perfect peak. You know?
Yeah.
You might find after you compete and you finish competing, like as in the end of your career, that was my best peak. But at the time, I think you could always think it could be better. You know?
100%.
And sometimes you are. Sometimes you never. Some people never hit the peak. They never get their peak.
I've heard that
Honestly.
too. I've heard that. But like, since they come in
close.
pretty good, close. What were you about to say?
Pretty close.
Yeah,
they'll get pretty close, but never that perfect peak, you know? And that's hard to do that, man. It's very hard to do that. But the less variables, the easier it is to control, in my opinion.
Then it comes down to yourself because, most bodybuilder mindset, you're never going to be satisfied no matter what that peak was, though, if you get what I mean. No. So because we're always shooting more and more and more, like better and better. And that's why it's hard sometimes to judge that, and then step back and go, oh, no, I've done okay, I've done that. And then because that winning mindset you've got, it's hard to take credit for it or actually, sit back and see what you've done there because you want to do better or you want to be better.
Exactly.
I mean, so that's
and I'll say this.
Yeah,
I'll say this as well. As bodybuilders, we're extremists. We are. It's an extreme sport. It is in a weird way because you'll think, oh, if I do that, a little bit's good, more's a bit better. You know?
Don't think that one. No, that's a bad one.
You can't, but every bodybuilder does. I don't care what you say. You know? Like everyone says, like, oh, if I did a little bit of that, it's all right. Then you think, this worked well. A little bit more. It's not always the case.
If you test that, though, like I've tried that before, like many things you'll test that, you go, oh, I try a little bit more. And then regardless of what we're saying, we'll just use in general a blanket statement. And then you're like, okay, this works well. So I try more. And then as I tried more, I got worse and felt shitter, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Even though the more, win risk reward ratio, it might be better to do less. You know what I mean? If you can get away with it as long as you possibly can. Less as you mostly can, get the best result that you can possibly get instead of trying to push something too far and fuck your health up,
And that's where it comes down to like longevity as well. So, like I said, I've been competing for 20 years and I got my, this is the first time I did it, but 2 weeks ago, I got my bloods done 6 days after my show. I've never done it before. And I
would have been paranoid. Yeah, were you doing good?
Aaron, I was freaking out, man. I did it, and I was like, do you know what? I want to see how bad it is. I honestly want to see what and look, I'm using DHT, I'm using stanozol and stuff like that. I was actually surprised at how good my blood work was.
That's good, though.
You're healthy. But that just shows that, like, the stuff you do in prep, like, I use a plethora of supplements. I do all my, like, I'm not someone that is like just throwing gear in and not looking after myself. But it goes to show that stuff does help, if you know how to set it up correctly. And I'm not saying my blood work is perfect. It was not. My liver enzymes were like 130, 140, right? But in the scheme of things, after using stanozol and stuff like that, that's not that bad.
Yeah. Then on top of it, same as alcoholics or whatever, they do probably more damage than that would anyway, because especially the long health phases you would have in between that, because it's not about pushing all the time either. You need the health phases, and a lot of people don't like doing that, and that's why they get sick, and that's why they, it's bad, if you get what I mean. You need that.
I cannot wait to do a health phase after this show.
Like, you get sick of it. Yeah, I understand.
I'm over it. I'm really over it.
Like a pincushion.
I've done, and I've done rebounds after a show too. I've done them. I've tried them. They work well.
Are they effective? I was about to ask you, are they effective? Usually, you find.
Yeah, situational. So, for myself and my clients in general, if you've done a really long prep, right? Chances are you're not going to be able to do a rebound, man, because like a proper rebound with gear, your health's already to the shit. Yeah. Right? If you've done a shorter prep and you got in shape and you didn't really abuse anything, your blood work's in a decent spot, you could probably do a 6 to 8 week rebound. And I normally find after 6 weeks, the rebound's done. Like, yes, you can keep going, but you get that initial warmth then you start to shut down. Your body starts to say, hey, enough now, man, enough, you know? And I've found the rebound works really well.
Mm.
It does work really well. But I've also found a health phase can be structured in a way that when I come off my diet, come off the preparation, sorry, if I stay lean for like 10 weeks, 8 to 10, 12 weeks, right, and I go into another growth phase,
Mm.
I still get a mini rebound.
Yeah.
You know, and my health's there. Because you can use the food after a show to elicit the response. Get healthy, get your food up to a certain level where you're still lean. Then you add the super subs,
I
and you can
found
grow from there.
I found the only difference is 5 kilos, if I'm honest.
Yeah,
That's
I'll
the
take
difference.
5 kilos.
Yeah, but that's what, if I'm being honest, like I said, because from the age of basically 30, I was 30, and when I turned 30, I went to the doctor. I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? I kept getting fatter and fatter. So that's when they started prescribing me TRT since I've been 30
Yeah.
years old. So, but some endocrinologists are absolutely idiots because they'll try to give you your. I'm not trying to piss. It's just they try to give you your replacement like every 2 weeks, and this is not good because it doesn't keep shit level. I get sick. I had to take all these AIs. I had to take all these other things that made me worse. Blood pressure, this, that, and the other. As simple as splitting it, making it more level. They're just. I don't understand why they still use this method for. If you want that dose, that's fine. I can do that. Just split it in 2 or 3, and then I'll just little bit, and I'll be
Easier.
normal. Like
I
it's.
think I think a lot of the times, a lot of these things that people with dosing in regards to pharmaceuticals, a lot of the time they do it because they're looking at the general person, and the general person, you say do this twice a week, like, oh, I can't do that twice a week. So they'll be like, okay, we'll just make it ease of use. We'll load you up for a few weeks, and you'll be all right. And for the general person, they they're not in tune with their bodies. They don't really notice the
Yeah,
difference. We notice.
yeah.
We know. So if we're going to do it, we need to keep everything stable, and that's how you feel the best.
I
So
found it
that's why, like,
worse. Sorry, I found
mm,
it worse when because like I said, I've been with them endocrinologist doctor. I've had lots of them. If you understand what I mean. I found it worse when they give me a thing called Narandron or something, like 12 weeks to 8 weeks. They'll give me one.
oh,
Yeah, that
no,
was
that's the word.
fucking. But it would break down that long, and so then your blood would get really thick. They'd have to lobotomize you all the time because of it, or they just take you off because they're like, oh, this is gone up, but it's gone up because of your problem because you didn't
Yeah,
make the fucking thing level to start off. I'm sorry, I'm getting mad because some of them are thick. I don't,
yeah,
uh,
and I feel like a lot of the time they don't really understand the like how the drugs work at all, as in like
yeah,
half lives or anything like that. Because yes, it might have a half life of 12 weeks, but it doesn't just stay like this.
yeah. You think doctors,
It's like,
and that's what they
mhm.
study, that
And
they'd be studied to do
then
that, you know.
yeah,
That's why I was
so
just
it's like,
confused. Yeah.
yeah, that's why I just do my own TRT. You know what I mean? Like most bodybuilders do in the end, as long as you're getting your blood work done
Yeah.
and you're looking after yourself, I think you can. Look, if you're not clued up, it is good to see someone.
Yeah.
Let's not muck around.
Yeah.
You don't want to be playing with hormones because these days, look, people come to me like they're 22. They're like, I'm on TRT. I go, you
Spend
had an
10
issue?
years training, mate. Spend 10 years training first.
And I'm like, what? Why are you on TRT, man? Like, what are you doing to yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard it's better. Yeah, but brother, like, you still produce test.
Yes,
Like,
it's
you've only been
natural as
training.
long as
You've
you
only been
can.
training. You've only been training for 6 months, bro. Like, try and max out what. Look, I'm not saying everyone has to do it like that, but
Yeah.
I think one of the best ways to go about it is try and maximize what you can naturally, and then make sure you've ticked every box: nutrition, training, lifestyle, habits, sleep. Then maybe add something
Do
new.
you
People do it the other.
do you,
People
do
do it
you,
the other way these days.
do you
Mm.
think, like, as an example, say, like that if you've pushed natural for a longer period of time, you have more potential because then you've got more of them cells, technically, because you've pushed longer, then you introduce it because it's got more muscle to feed. Do you get what? Or you don't think this is a factor? It's only a genetic factor of because some do or some don't. So do you think this
Yeah,
training factor of staying natural for a longer period of time is a fact or not?
I think it's the right way to do it
Yeah,
personally because you build up all the habits and stuff.
yeah,
I'm going to say this though.
yeah,
If you, it's hard to say this, but if you
yeah.
want to be a professional bodybuilder at the top of your game, the earlier you start, the better. It's bad to say, but
Really? Yeah,
honestly,
yeah,
look at the pros. Look at the top pros, honestly. Like, and we are not top pros, right? We don't have those genetics. But look at Derek Lunsford. He started when he was young. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at all of the pros. They virtually, like Dexter. Like, look at all these guys. They started really young. Yeah. But I don't think it's the point of starting young that's the issue. It's the dosing, because when you're young and you start, the mentality is more, 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 more. So they go straight up to the top.
Yeah.
Right. Then you give yourself not much runway for like longevity, so it's got to be like a slow ascent into it, but doing it really young puts yourself in a position to say, like, you got to commit to this for life now. And I just think that if you are, it's hard to say because you don't know whether you have the genetics, whether you have the genetic response to it, because it's not just how you like punch gear in your eye. Some people, you can give one, say I've got a twin, no, not a twin, say I've got a brother, and I do, and he used the same amount as me, we will respond differently, So a lot of the time it's response based. You look at like Kevin Levrone, right? He was a freak, but naturally he was just quite thin, athletic, but his response to gear is next level. He would shrink down and blow up.
That's that genetic outline, if you know what I mean. Some people just do that. Yeah.
And some people just respond like that. Some people need forever. Yeah. And some people, you can give them all the drugs in the world, they will still look like shit.
Yeah, they won't grow. Honestly. You won't even know that they've used anything.
You look at everyone. Look at people in your gym. Like you look in your gym, like every gym. I would say 70 males. 70% of people in a gym have either on gear or have used gear, but they don't look like it. So if you were if you could foresee the future of being a pro and you got your nutrition locked in at 18, training habits, everything, I think the younger you start, the better. I'm not saying it's the best for your health, but I just think that you're going to have a longer time on gear, which normally generates more muscle tissue, but most people are not those people. So I would say, because if you're watching this, you're probably not genetically. If you've got to ask yourself, have I got good genetics? You're not that guy. You're not Phil Heath. Sorry, brother. Right? If you've got to ask yourself, have I got good genetics? People will be telling you got great genetics. You got great genetics. So it's like your response to how it's the gear is so vastly different that you've got to make a choice early on, and you got to see, am I gonna pursue this for a career? And chances are you're not that person. So maybe the best way to go is stay natural for as long as you can. Then once you tap that out, then add something in, because you're not going to make a career of this. You're not going to be a pro.
You've got because you only got one more path after that. Once you've maxed that path, you've got your enhanced path, but then you've got what is it? Then you can mess with your was it IGF and that, because of the is it the doubling of the cell? I forget what it's called. What's it called again?
So if you look at like GH, when you use GH, you get hyperplasia.
That's the one. I couldn't think of it. Yeah.
Splitting of the cells.
Yeah.
So that could be a level up for some people, but even some people I know do not get a great response from GH.
So that's genetic thing again. But technically, if you got a good response from that other, would you receive a good response for having the other thing too? And I think that waiting and having that when you're in your 40s or something, if you never had it before, as an example, then if you do it then, because you're already losing your own natural one, it could give you that energy and that strength back that you lost from when you were in your 30s and your other, because it's like replacing that same amount. Yeah.
The other side of the story would be this, though. Okay. So like I talked about when you're younger, if you started GH younger, you would develop more cells over time. So
I'm not sure. I understand what you're getting at.
You know what I mean? So you could technically probably use less anabolics, right? Because GH is way healthier than anabolics, right? Use GH, less anabolics, and have a longer career than blast anabolics, then use GH later in your life. So there's like two ways to look at it. You know what I mean?
Did you find the shoulder the shoulder size is slightly changes in the someone that uses GH for a longer period of time. That's what I've noticed if I like pay attention and watch. The actual
I can,
shoulder mass will be a different thing. So if they've used that from a longer, that means it could blow their shape out slightly different because I've watched some when they blow out. Not talking about the stomach or the extension. We know that's just food at the end of the day. But like just saying in general by the shoulder mass and what it does to the shoulder, if you get what I
I
mean.
think,
So that
yeah,
could
I
be a
think
factor.
that what I see a lot when people are using GH, I just see that your structure seems to grow. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You get wider,
Yeah.
but you also get more. You get more 3D. So
Yeah.
generally, when you look at somebody, if you've been doing this a while,
Mm.
right, you can sometimes see. You can't. Oh, I could see it, but it's a look.
Yeah.
It's a look. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
that 3D bubbly look, and not everyone has that because you've got to have
Yeah.
the round muscle bellies in the first place. But it's a different look. I mean, when you start using, if somebody starts using GH, it doesn't turn you from a fridge into a bubble. It doesn't.
It takes
right?
a year or
But if
something
you,
to even work.
yeah, oh,
6 months to a year, properly.
to get new cells and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Different stuff,
But
right?
you'll notice the initial fullness
The skin and
within
that.
a week. Yeah, initial fullness in a week. But this is a response as well, you know. So I found that GH in a lot of people can allow you to use less anabolics, which is always good, you know. And these days, GH is very. Well, I'm not gonna say it's more accessible than it used to be. Okay, so people now like it only used to be pros that would use GH.
Yeah.
Now I've got like Johnny across the road. Oh, I use 2IU GH for for my skin and stuff. I'm like, far out. You know what I mean? Or Kathy across the road. Yeah, it's for my skin. You know. So it's a weird sort of drug in its sense, but I think it can be beneficial for a lot of people.
I saved
less
that one. I was thinking I'll save that one, and if I did ever turn pro, then I'd have an extra level of growing. But maybe my mindset was wrong.
I'd be honest. I never used GH until about 3 years ago.
So you're older.
No,
That's why, because of the longevity effect, you know, and staying thing. So I'm not talking about abuse, if you know what I mean. There's a lot of effects of, you know, like making you younger, making you like sissy in your skin better, and yeah.
But when you're a bodybuilder, you're not. You look older on GH. I don't care what people say.
Oh, you do?
Like,
Danger.
Because there's a threshold, in my opinion. 2IUs, yeah, great. That's going to keep you young. But when you go super physiological, like bodybuilders do, we're not using 2IU. Yeah. So most of them, well, some people are, but most people are using it a bit more. So you get that thicker skin, right? Your skin gets thicker. If you notice someone on GH, their ears, their nose grow, everything sort of gets you look a bit more ugly. I swear to God.
The ears keep growing anyway as you get older.
But this makes it worse. It makes it worse.
Oh, no.
But like, I've just found that when people use it for a while,
Yeah.
they start to get a bit uglier, you know? But in saying that, the body does grow.
Yeah,
so it's
beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, exactly. So there's pros and cons to everything. And what do they say? Like there's no free lunch in science, like in chemistry and using pharmaceutical products. But like, can you leverage one to get a good result and keep your health better? Yeah, you can. But you can't just plug and play.
Yeah.
Like it's not like, you know, you plug it, yeah, I'll try that. No, you want to have the right structure. Timing plays a role. You've got to be checking blood glucose. Like there's so many things
that becomes more than, because like you explained before, then the insulin sensitivity can creep in a long time of that problem. Yeah.
So it's like a vicious, like you got to be on your shit. You got to be on your shit to really utilize these things. But it's also like an experiment. Like as bodybuilders, we like to experiment, you know. But then there's experimentation that is, how do I say, like not going to hurt you so much. And then there's things that you really just shouldn't experiment with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's certain. Well, no, I shouldn't say shouldn't, because everyone you can do whatever you want. It's your life, but probably not as recommended.
I'll let everyone else test it, and then I'll see lots of data, and then I'll make my own mind up of it. Do my own research. I'm not being a guinea pig. I'll rather keep my health. My health.
But I would too. But a lot of bodybuilders don't. They like to try. They like to try things out. You know, and bodybuilders are the pioneers, man. Like when you look at nutritional things, like bodybuilders, all these keto and Atkins diet, bodybuilders have been doing these for years.
100%.
They've been doing it for years.
We're going to cut out.